Welcome back to the Hive Doctor, your beekeeping mentor. Occasionally, I receive video requests in the comments from you guys, and I try to make them when they're relevant to what my operation is going through during certain times of the year. So, if you haven't seen a video yet that you've requested, it's coming. But today's video is how to store your supers after you're done harvesting honey for the year, and it's time to save your comb before wax moth destroys it. So stick around. Welcome back, beekeepers. So when it comes to beekeeping, there's a lot that we don't know at first. Ironically, the things that we really don't like tend to be the things that we learn first, among which is going to be the wax moths. Those dang little things, they really tear up our comb, don't they? And our comb is precious when we want to take care of it because it gives our bees a head start every year, whether it's brood comb, honeycomb, in our deep hive bodies and in our honey supers. Saving that stuff gives us and our bees that head start that we want so dearly every year, whether we're making splits, housing a swarm, or getting ready for a nectar flow. So we want to save our comb as best we can after we're done with harvesting for the year, because when boxes are not on a colony, other things tend to move in and take over, and wax moth is such a culprit. So I've used several different methods of keeping wax moth out. I've been successful in that, but it's usually when I've stacked my boxes outside, and though I keep the wax moths out because I usually do that in the time of the year where the temperatures drop too low for the wax moths to really thrive. I'm in late summer here, so there's still plenty of time for wax moths to come in and destroy my comb, but I need to save it for next year. So instead of using those methods that didn't really work, plus stacking outside, moisture would find its way into the boxes and my frames would ultimately get mold on them. I used to put moldy frames in a colony because they can clean it up really well. They're very efficient at that. But when I learned that a lot of how honeybees digest, it's very dependent upon their respiratory system, I stopped putting moldy frames in my colonies. So now I just try to keep my frames from becoming moldy to begin with. And when they do, I'll cull those frames, scrape the wax off, melt that down, and then clean up the frame before I use it again and have the bees draw it out yet on another nectar flow, usually next year. So this year I'm doing something different, using something new, and I've used something similar before and it definitely works. So what we're going to be using today is paramoth. This is a really, really stinky crystal, and the active ingredient in this is para-dichlorobenzene. You can smell this stuff when it comes in the box from Amazon, which is where I got it. It's very potent. Definitely read the label before you use this for using safety precautions. You see I've got my gloves on. I have a respirator as well. You know when you're breathing this stuff because you can smell it. It's very strong. And that's part of how it works with the wax moths. Now, directions for use on this stuff is to start stacking your unused honey supers. You'll want to do this at a point when, after your harvest, you've set your boxes out. And of course, these are going to be the boxes that your colonies are not going to go into the winter in. They're boxes that are extra surplus that you need to store for the nectar flow specifically. So after the nectar flow and you've extracted these boxes, they're still wet with honey. You want to put those out so that they get licked up by the bees and cleaned out. It's important to store dry comb in your honey supers, not wet. When they're wet and they are not on a colony, small hive beetle tend to take over and the larvae will grow and multiply in that, and they'll slime your frames, and it's not a pretty sight. So we're not only protecting from wax moth, but we're also protecting from small hive beetle by making sure that we store dry honey supers. And we're going to do it in such a way that mice can't get to it as well. And it's nothing about the boxes necessarily, the comb, that attracts a mouse. It's an enclosed space that the mice, rodents find easier to heat the space of. So they'll move in, chew a little space to be able to build a nest, and they're able to keep warm during the wintertime. The way this paramoth works, and I may not be exact on this, but when you stack your dry honey supers for the season, you'll be putting these crystals inside that stack. And I'm going to show you how to do that today. But it creates like this really smelly environment that the wax moths not only cannot thrive in, but they really can't breathe either. I don't know whether it's the fumes from this stuff that kills the moths or it does something to the oxygen in the boxes. Because when you stack them square. You don't want any ventilation going through these boxes. You want all of these crystals and the fumes that it creates to only be in the stack of boxes. Back here you can see where I've started it. I'm going to explain exactly how to do this. It's real quick and real simple, and it's going to save your comb. So let me show you exactly how this works so that you can do it and save your comb so the next year you've got fresh comb ready to go on your bees. All right, so here we are in my shed. That's where I'm going to be storing my honey supers over the winter. Automatically, this place is sealed up. I don't have to worry about rodents, so that's taken care of. Second is I'm going to be stacking 2 stacks right next to one another. I've got my paramoth ready right here. And the directions for use, there's several steps. One is you want to put something down on the floor like newspapers or cardboard. Newspapers will probably be better because it helps trap that gas. Because the gas is heavier than air, it's going to flow down to the bottom of the boxes. And that way it covers a lot of area because you put this stuff in at the top. And you do it on a piece of paper, something sturdy. I've got these sturdy, I don't know, some kind of paper wipe, like a paper towel. A coffee filter will work. And these are going to go in at the top of the stack, with one exception that I'm going to go over here in a minute. So when you install this stuff at the top of the stack, of course, there's going to be some kind of cover over that. And then these things are going to start to work. The vapors, the gas will flow all the way down to the floor. And you want your boxes to be on newspaper because it helps seal those gases in once they reach the bottom. Now they recommend not stacking more than 5 or 6 honey supers medium depth high or 10 shallow honey supers high. I just figure why not stack as tall as I want and then put in a paper towel with paramoth on it halfway through. So I have 4 stacked here, 4 stacked here. I've already put 2 cloths down and installed some crystals on top of each one. Now I'm just going to keep stacking my boxes, and I'll probably have about, I don't know, 14 in each stack, something like that. I haven't counted. But then I'm going to put another cloth at the top of each stack. So that way I'm covering the entire depth of my stack. After you make sure that the gases cannot get out of the bottom of your stack, you'll want to find a way to seal up where the boxes sit on top of one another. And there's a couple of ways to do that. One, you can use some kind of tape around the seams to keep those gases in. Or what I've done in the past when I worked with my mentor down in Florida, we just had a commercial roll of saran wrap and we would go around this stack with saran wrap over the top and leave it there. And it worked great. There's no way those gases were going to get out. And even if they did, they're contained within that saran wrap. And it was very effective at keeping out the wax moth. The only thing that you want to make sure to do is when spring comes around, you want to undo the saran wrap or the tape and let these boxes air out for, let's see, I think the directions on this stuff says 2 to 3 weeks. Because if you don't, the vapors are still inside the comb, they're in the boxes, and they will kill your bees. The vapors are harmless once aired out. These boxes need that ventilation. So make sure that, I would just say, shoot for 3 weeks. Forget 2. I don't want to take any chances of harming my bees. So these are going to air out 3 weeks, maybe even a month, before I put them on my colonies for the next nectar flow in the springtime. Now you may be wondering, how much of these crystals do I put in the colony? Or not in the colony, in the stack of honey supers. Paramoth recommends a dosage in each stack of at least 3 ounces or 6 tablespoons, whichever way that measuring that is easier for you. And that's pretty much it. Now I can go along and finish my stack, put one more cloth of crystals at the very top, put a hive cover on top, something that's going to close over that really well. And I can either tape or saran wrap these boxes. Either one is going to work great. So it's up to you how that happens. There's another option for this kind of stuff. And it doesn't come in crystal form like this one does. It comes in a pellet form. And over time, as those pellets are exposed to the air in the stack of boxes, they begin to kind of crumble away. And that's part of the reason you want to have some kind of cloth or coffee filter to contain these. You don't want the crystals getting loose in your boxes. You need to contain them. You're just after the gases that emanate from them and the benefit that they have for keeping those moths out. All right, so there you have it. Just to recap, make sure that you seal the bottom on the floor wherever you're going to stack your boxes first. Stack your boxes up. If you go as high as I do, put some crystals halfway through the stack. Make sure you use a cloth. Finish out your stack, use another cloth, 3 ounces or 6 tablespoons, seal it up, and decide whether you want to saran wrap it up or tape off the seams where each box meets the next, and you're good to go. I'm going to link that Paramoth down in the description below so that you can get your own. You saw how big the bottle that was. That should last me, man, with the amount of supers I currently have and need to store, I'm going to say a couple of years. So, and I definitely have, at the moment, 50-something hives. I don't yet have as many honey supers as I want, but I'll be working towards that in the next 2 to 3 years, at which point I'll probably be using a couple of those. So there you have it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Drop me one of these. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I'll see you in the next video.